The wife sent me a text intended for her AP. I, 34 male, was married to my homemaker wife, Linda, 36 female, for 5 years. I was supposed to come home from a work trip on Monday afternoon, but I was able to get a last-minute red-eye home Sunday night. I get off the plane, catch a shuttle to my car, and head home to surprise my wife. As I'm driving, my wife sends a text message saying that she enjoyed the week and would have to do it again the next time her husband, me, travels for work next month. Then she proceeded to say how she missed waking up to you, not me, and how much she would miss having sex every day. As I read this, I pulled over into a parking lot to reread it to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. I sat there for a few minutes, then texted her back with a simple wrong person. Since we have a prenup in place, I would assume you will be okay with one lawyer to mediate our divorce, then threw it on the seat next to me and continued home. By the time I got there, she'd been blowing up my phone and trying to call me, but I didn't answer or respond. She still doesn't know that I'm coming home early, so I pull up and go into the house to find her in a panic on the phone to someone with a male voice. She's in the kitchen facing the backyard on speaker, so I can hear the guy asking her to repeat what happened, and she stammers something about sending a text to me instead of him by accident. She doesn't notice me, so I call out, "Honey, I'm home." The look on her face was priceless as she flinched and dropped her phone on the floor. She's staring at me in horror as I stand there looking at her. She's a total mess, like she just got up with bed hair. I casually say, "So do you want me to try to get in to see a lawyer today or tomorrow?" as I walk past her to the bedroom. I dropped my suitcase off and walked to the bed, stripping all of the linen off of it into a big ball, and took it to the kitchen. I grabbed a big black plastic bag and started stuffing it all into the bag. Linda, my wife, is crying now, saying that it was all a big joke and that she was just kidding. Apparently, she didn't make the connection. I overheard her on the phone. For all I knew, the guy was still listening. I ended up needing 2 bags because the comforter was too much to fit into the bag with the sheets and blanket. I just ignored her, walked out to my car, and threw the 2 bags into the trunk. I was assuming those were the linen that she used to screw the guy over the last week, so there was most likely evidence of sex in case I needed it for proof. I didn't need it, and I don't think Linda made the connection. When I got back into the house, Linda threw herself at me, begging me to talk to her. I just told her I would talk to her when we saw the lawyer and not before. I asked her if she had a place to stay, and she looked at me confused. I told her, "You will not be staying in my house. Pack your bags and go stay with your parents. You won't be living here again. I'll have your personal belongings packed and delivered to you." She dropped to the ground, just bawling, saying the "no, no, no" chant, and that she loved me. And it didn't mean anything, etc. I had to force the issue with her by telling her she could do the packing and leave, or I could drag her and her crap out into the yard. This was my family's house before we got married, passed to me when my parents decided to move to a condo in a warm weather locale. My parents still owned it, but I would inherit it when they passed. Linda had no rights to the house. Just to make sure I was within my rights, I called my dad and gave him a rundown of what had happened. After all he was done swearing, he asked how to help. I told him I needed him to text my wife, he has her number, and tell her that she was to vacate the home. Of course, she could probably have dug in and made us go through an eviction. But that wouldn't have been smart for her, and she knew it. Linda packed her bags and went into the garage. She started digging around for the key to her car and couldn't find it, because I had taken it from her purse while packing. The problem with Linda is that she's lazy when we go car shopping. She never wanted to go through the hassle of sitting with me to do the actual paperwork. That meant both of our cars were in my name. I didn't feel like I needed to allow her to take one of them because of her cheating. To top that off, both of the car payments were coming from my personal bank account, so screw her. I told her to her face that both cars were in my name, so she could call her parents or get an Uber. She was still freaking out and started to yell at me for being mean to her. I got right down into her face with mine, and with my voice shaking, told her that she didn't want to push her luck with me. She backed off and I held out my hand and said, "Phone." She looked even more shocked and said no. I asked her who purchased the phone because I knew I could prove I did. It was on my credit card. I told her she could have the old phone in the drawer and get her own line since I was yet again the only one on the T-Mobile contract. She reluctantly handed over the phone and got the old one out of the drawer. I would later find all kinds of info regarding the affair because, like I said, Linda is lazy and always uses one of 3 passwords. In this case, it was the last 4 of her SSN. I escorted her out and stood there blocking the door until her dad and mom showed up. When they got out of the car, Linda was in hysterics again and ran to her mom. Her dad walked up to me with a stern face and asked what was going on. I pulled out my phone and showed him the text message she sent me. His face was ashen after reading it, and he nodded, said he was sorry, and they left once Linda's stuff was loaded. That was the last time I spoke to my now ex-wife, and it wasn't until later that week that we met at the lawyer's office for mediation. This was my second marriage. After the nightmare of the first one, I had told Linda early on when we were dating that I'd never marry again without having a prenup. She seemed non-committal but didn't object since it was fair. We simply divided bank assets evenly, and each person would be responsible for their own credit cards and debt in their name. We had no shared cards. I had the bulk of the debt on mine since Linda only used hers for going out with friends and Starbucks, etc. It also stated that there would be no alimony or access to the other's retirement for any reason if there was a divorce. I'm simplifying this since the doc itself was multiple pages. The lawyer we hired as a mediator took into account all of our purchased assets and weighed them against the prenup. Linda ended up with exactly half of our banking funds, including savings. She got to keep anything that was purchased on her credit card. That wasn't much since all major purchases were done on my card, including most of her jewelry. I didn't contest her keeping that because I wouldn't know what to do with it. I also allowed her to keep any of the furniture she wanted. Every time Linda tried to talk to me, I shut her down. There was no coming back from this. She didn't cheat once as a lapse in judgment. She was having a full-blown affair. I was lucky that Linda had too much scar tissue in her uterus to bring a child to term, so we never had kids. The doctor said this could have been from an abortion she had in high school. She had quite a few miscarriages over the first couple of years, but we stopped trying because of the mental train wreck that caused us. Our divorce was quick and without any drama due to the prenup and the mediator. It took 6 months, with most of that just being part of a mandatory waiting period. I am by no means a Hollywood heartthrob, but I'm in reasonable shape since I'm still in my 30s and eat well. My wife was pretty in the face, but going soft due to her laziness. Although she was soft, I found that attractive, and apparently her AP did too, so I'm sure she'll be able to find someone else. I never heard of what happened to AP or any real info on him. Linda said they stopped seeing each other because he had heard her screaming about how it was a mistake and how much she loved me after she dropped the phone. I'm guessing that she was telling him something different, and he opted out. That's my story. At the end of the day, I probably sounded like I didn't care or love Linda, but I did. It hurt me a lot to go through this, but I unfortunately had walked the divorce road in my early 20s. Strike 2, I guess. Wishing all of you living with this crap the best. Remember to call your prenup an equitable marriage contract, since it doesn't have the same stigma. The lawyer said they are way more common now than people think. I only post unique new content. Please like and subscribe.